Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spherical Luminosity's YouTube Live series on integration. If you wouldn't mind commenting on the chat, your first name and where you're from. We have Karen from South Florida and Nichelle from Hawaii, the Big Island. Hello, Nichelle. And Sage from Portland and Annette from Denmark. You are very diligent about attending these in the middle of the morning. So thank you for joining us. And we have Pam and Chris from South Island in New Zealand, Sandy Heath from Encinitas, and Pauline from, I think, the Bay Area in California. Anyway, and hello to all of you that I can't mention. It's so good to see you all. So thank you for joining. Many of you have written in about the power of this series, so thank you for letting us know that you're enjoying it. So my name is Karen Cheong, and some of you know me already, or most of you do, and some of you don't. So for those of you who are new, I help to catalyze awakening and a rise in human consciousness by releasing people's conscious and unconscious blocks at what I refer to as frequency level, which amplifies your awareness of the divine within so you can recognize and live the abundance and limitlessness of your true nature as infinite, indestructible consciousness. This is your birthright, and the time for humanity to awaken to this possibility is now. Okay, so this is the third in our integration series. And now, as some of you know, all of the integration series is to help you integrate from spirit level through into the physical at this time of tremendous acceleration, which also happens to be very destabilizing, okay, because there's so much momentum. And you can see the destabilization that's happening in the world around us. Everything from even further polarization that's happening in the US around the abortion issue, Russian invasion of Ukraine that is still ongoing, and the list goes on and on. So the integration series is here to help you gain more internal stability through keeping you in more coherence. Until you come into more integration of the frequency work into the physical, you won't see changes quickly. Okay, so all of these modalities that we're presenting can help you with integration. Now, I'm not suggesting that you have to do any or all of these. Okay? You could simply focus on refining the 6 core essentials in the Mastery and Momentum series, and that would be enough. And I believe that there are additional tools that can help us increase our ability to integrate and accelerate. So that's exactly why I'm giving these YouTube Lives as community support. And if any of these modalities resonate with you, then follow that. With all of that said, the focus today is on the nervous system, the spine, and a lesser known form of chiropractic called network spinal analysis, and really creating greater alignment between the frequency and the physical level. So just in terms of my own journey, I've been doing network spinal analysis since about 2008 or thereabouts. I don't really remember dates very well, but it's about there. And it was long, long before I found frequency work. Okay. And even me back then, I knew it was amazing, okay, because it helped me deal with stress and to integrate whatever I was doing then on spirit level. Then when I discovered frequency work and I started releasing my distortion patterns, then I really felt the power of NSA, because it really dovetails really amazingly with frequency work. It helped me and Chris to really accelerate. Okay. So what we started to do was, as we got into frequency work and started to ratchet up the intensity of it, we were getting in trained twice a week. Okay. That's a lot. And it was perfect, actually. And we noticed that others were getting stuck in detox. And while we were still detoxing, we were also accelerating at the same time and at this really rapid pace. We could just process frequency work faster. And then when my abilities came in, then I could see and know why NSA worked so perfectly with frequency work. So why does dovetail so beautifully? So from my perspective, frequency work happens at the level of the field, the one, pure source, beyond space and time. Okay. The level from which your physical body and your physical experience derives. Now, any of you who have done any of my work will know that I release the distortion patterns at the level of the field. It's gone instantly and completely. But you must release it out of the lower, denser levels of the physical, mental, and emotional. Yeah. So any of you who's done coherence mastery, you're very familiar with this. Any of you who've been watching the vlog or podcast series are aware of this as well. And you need to use your free will to declare that that is no longer a distortion that you run. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'd really suggest watching the Mastering Your World Through Frequencies episode called The Most Powerful Tool in Your Toolkit. Okay. So when you start to do this, you start to be aware of, experience, and live your sovereignty as co-creator. So to me, NSA is so powerful because it helps you to use your nervous system, your spine, to clear out the distortion out of the physical, mental, and emotional fields. So when I perceive it, it connects what happens at the field through the physical body and back out to the level of the field in a very coherent pattern. So today we're going to be talking with Dr. Aiden Kinsella. Sorry, I forgot the doctor. The Dr. Aiden Kinsella, who is amazing and was our practitioner for a long time in San Francisco. So she's also been invited to provide NSA at a number of our retreats because the capacity of the participants to move higher in frequency resonance in a retreat once they're trained literally jumps exponentially because of the work she does. Okay, so that's why we're talking to Dr. Aiden today. And we're going to bring her on right about now. I think through the magic of technology. I can't actually see it, but I'm imagining she's there. Okay. There she is. So, Aiden, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us a little bit who you are and what it is that you do.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah.
Wow. What I do. It's like when someone asks you what you do, Karen. In the sense that I work with people to help them really embody their authentic nature and to cultivate an awareness, a somatic awareness, a conscious awareness of their physical, emotional, cognitive, social value system and spiritual state, so that they're actually able to live their life in a way that's in alignment with who they are. And in the simplest way, the work I do helps people come alive in their body. And so my favorite quote is by Howard Thurman that says, "Don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, and go do it, because what the world needs is more people who come alive." And so that's that's my mission and vision is. I'm really helping people come alive in their body and live who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, that's huge.
Technique. Yeah.
I mean, what do you say to that? It's pretty awesome. Who doesn't want that? Cool. And can you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah. So I came to do that work. I grew up in rural New Hampshire. I was homeschooled, unschooled, grew up in a really creative way, which I think lends a lot to why I'm drawn to this work, but really found the work that I do as a child. I was 14. I was in a pretty significant car accident and had just a very strong embodied knowing that I needed chiropractic care. I'd had it before, but didn't want anything forceful. Didn't want anything that felt like more tension creating in my body. And so my mom took us to someone who did this because it's gentle, this network spinal analysis technique. And that was the beginning at 14 years old of really finding who I am in my body through this work. And so who I am and the work I do are very much woven together. It's been a passion of mine for a really long time. So I grew up in New Hampshire, moved to San Francisco when I was 18, and decided at 19 that I would go to chiropractic school and do this work. And so have been on that seeking, healing, growing, learning consciousness journey since.
Yeah. That's awesome that it was so clear for you at such a young age.
Live here in San Francisco with my wife and my 10-year-old daughter, and my wife Marisol runs the office. So we've worked together for 13 years. And so we live this, breathe this, work this, our community is around this. It's just really.
Yeah. And Marisol, who is not here, is like the definition of love. She just like oozes love. You just want to hug her all the time. She's amazing.
Angel embodied. Yes.
Yeah, totally. So everyone has heard of chiropractic. And NSA is a form of chiropractic, but to me, it's so loosely a form of chiropractic. I mean, it uses the spine, obviously. But can you explain what the difference is between like what people think chiropractic is and what NSA is? Now, you've mentioned it's more gentle, but what kind of that mean?
Yeah. So when, most people think of chiropractic, they think back pain, car accident, snap, crack, pop, get your spine straight, right? But the original chiropractors were metaphysicists. They were actually seeking to unite human beings with consciousness. So right around the turn of the century, 1895, is when chiropractic was sort of started to emerge. But it was also a time when many schools of thought looking at the relationship between energy and matter, between human beings and consciousness, and how we can live in alignment with that. That was around, theory of relativity was 1905. So there was a lot of that percolating in science and in the space at that time. And so what most people don't know is that that's actually the roots of chiropractic, is looking to see that the spine is actually this antenna that connects us to the field. And it's when we have distortion or tension or disruption of that nervous system that allows us to perceive, then disease manifests. And chiropractic, the original philosophy of chiropractic is that any interference in that universal spirit energy manifesting through us will result in some sort of dysfunction or disease. And so that's the original idea. And then chiropractic has gone on to become something that's much more like Western medicine and much more rehabilitative and physical therapy-like and corrective of pain or tension patterns. And if that's a beautiful work, if that's what you're seeking. But the doctor who was developing this work was asking a very specific question in the 80s when he was developing that work. And he was asking the question, where can I put the least amount of force into the nervous system that results in the greatest amount of nonlinear change? Really asking, how can I help the nervous system learn? Because it has this incredible capacity to learn and repattern. So instead of fixing or correcting, how do I actually enhance learning and growth and evolution in the nervous system? So that question led him in a whole different direction and actually required him to start to look through a wider lens and a wider lens and a wider lens. So instead of looking at a bone out of place, starting to look at the whole system of the body and starting to look at the relationship between the tension that may show up in the body and the spine and how someone thinks and feels and the experiences they've lived through. And so the thing that makes this stand out on the surface to a lot of people is that it's gentle because we don't move bones. But the reason why we don't structurally adjust or move bones is actually more interesting than that, is because we're really looking at everything your body's doing is genius. Is doing the very best it can with the energy and the information available. And so instead of trying to correct what the spine's doing, what we want is to help reflect what the nervous system is doing to it, so that your brain, your body, your system's able to go, oh, I can do better. So the way I describe it to people who've never received care before is, imagine your hand was in a fist, but you didn't know. And someone pointed out to you, like, Aiden, why is your hand in a fist? And as soon as I saw it, I'd be able to go, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. Just, oh. So when I make these very gentle, precise contacts along your spine, that's essentially what's happening in the nervous system, is that the brain and body is able to go, oh, I'm bracing, I'm holding, I'm defending against either something that's happening now or something that happened last week or something that happened when I was 2, or maybe something you can actually ancestrally or through the lineage or something collectively that's happening. So another thing I'll say that I think is really important is that your nervous system can either be in defense, which is bracing against change, or it can be adapting, learning, growing, healing, changing, which is, they're all synonymous. So we're either actively in that growing, learning, healing, changing state, or we're in a protective state. And your nervous system's designed to move fluidly between those. So if I don't have enough energy to adapt in a moment, I can brace, but I can ideally come in and out of that in a really fluid way. But what happens for many people is that over time, because we live so out of sync with our bodies and live in a world now that we're inundated with so much information constantly, that the body's bracing often more than it's adapting, learning, growing, healing. And so ultimately that's what Network seeks to do, is help your nervous system recognize and self-regulate and advance and heal and grow more.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And there is this point where, so I just want to preface this for everybody. So Aiden's kind of special, right? She's, I mean, not that everyone's not special, but Aiden is particularly gifted at this work. She's very, very good at it. Okay, that's why she's here, talking to all of us. So would you mind talking a little bit about the gateway and how it the theory of the gateway and how it moves between the body and the field, if you don't mind?
Mm-hmm. And so what the gateway is, what we call the spinal gateway in network care, is the place where I make the contact. So I told you I don't adjust. So a traditional structural chiropractor, or actually most practitioners who do body work, who are going to work on your body, are going to go to the areas where your body's bracing, to where the tension is, to where the disruption even of the energy is, where the blockage is, and work on that and help move that out. But with network, what's so different is instead of going to that place, we go to what we call the spinal gateway, which for the nervous system is like a window. It's like a portal. It's like a black hole. It's a place where time and space doesn't follow the same rules as in just 3 dimensions here. And so it's a place when I contact the gateway, I'm actually able to contact all of you, and not just all of you right here in this moment, but all of you in a quantum way, all of you in past you, future you, now you, versions of you, the versions of you that decided to do one thing versus the version of you decided to do something else. So not only does contacting that gateway in the neurology connect to the frontal cortex of the brain and help the body go, oh, this is where I am, this is what I'm doing, is that really what I want to do? But also contacting the gateway helps your nervous system also be aware of the possibilities on a quantum level of the different versions of you. So the gateway is a phenomenon. It has a location that's on the spine. It's between the vertebra. It's in so that your body can learn to move with the gateway, and the spine can move with that. But it actually also has an energetic structure that's like a vortex. That the more we work with it, it starts to develop, almost like we have antennas. And it's part of why, when it comes to frequency work, network care ends up being really helpful in integrating the energy information that's changing in our field, so that we can start to have more connection to how our body's changing and how our body changes can influence that. So that's one thing I'd say about what the gateway is.
I know there's Dr. Donnie Epstein is the one who founded this work, and like papers that are hundreds of pages long on what the gateway is, I think. So I guess my question is, so you said something about the quantum field and this bridge. Okay, so what Aiden's talking about is the bridge into the eternal now. Okay, so this is this bridge into the infinite, onto the spirit level, beyond space-time. This is where frequency work happens, right? This should probably sound pretty familiar to those of you who do frequency work. So Aiden, I'm wondering, since Aiden has experienced frequency work, what do you feel, Aiden, is how the two dovetail together? I mean, I've talked a little bit about what it means to me, but for you, given your experience and your expertise in NSA and the spine and all the years you've been training and working in this, how do you feel frequency work?
I feel that that the entrainments help my body recognize the shift that has occurred in the field through the frequency work. So, when I'm receiving frequency work, I can feel in my physical body responding to those shifts. And then when I have an entrainment, I can feel almost, it's almost like changing channels in my nervous system and my body's able to just go, oh, okay, we can just switch into this. And we don't have to struggle between maybe what I have known or what was and the new change that's available to me. There's a more effortless shift into the new thing. So in that way, I'm trying to think of like another analogy for it, but it's if when you learn how to do something new, then there's a little bit of a dance between the old way you used to do something and the new way you used to do something. And to some degree, all learning is unlearning. So especially on a cognitive, mental, rational level, we do have to do that little dance a little bit. Oh, that's it. That's not it. That's it. That's part of how we repattern. And yet when we can utilize the body and the nervous system to help us navigate that kind of repatterning, unlearning, and anchoring into stability of something new, then it happens much more effortlessly and efficiently and faster, and with less struggle in the body, less of the symptoms of maybe what you would refer to as the detox, as we shed and move through and start to shed the different layers of who we've been being that maybe aren't as true as the versions of us that are emerging.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. It breaks through habituation. That's the way I feel about it. You just, because you are undoing at the nervous system level the habituation of the mind and the body, which is like a huge, huge, huge thing. Because I don't know if you noticed this, but your mind repeating itself isn't particularly helpful. It's hard to change. So if you have help from NSA, then you can move into that change that you're striving to achieve through frequency work in an embodied way that's very stable, and your body can move into a new pattern much more efficiently and much more smoothly. And as Aiden says, with much less detox, literally, it's like in this cycle between, at least in my perception, as the change in frequency work is being pulled through the body and up through the spine through NSA, your body has to come through your body. It must come through the density that is you, because it's part of you. So as it comes through you, it's shifting you by coming through you into a greater possibility of what you can embody. And then it goes back out into the field, back into frequency level. So it completes the cycle, which is really lovely. And so I think Aiden described that really beautifully. And my experience of that is true, because the amount of speed that you can gain by doing NSA, especially if you're paying attention to yourself, confirming the removal, all that sort of stuff, is so much faster. You can enter that state of neutrality, surrender from strength, all that sort of stuff that we talk about much faster, because your nervous system and your body isn't fighting you with a conditioned response that you've had before. So it's really, really, really helpful. Okay, and I guess, let me see, I had another question for you, if I can find it. Hang on just a moment. Oh, yeah. Oh, I wanted to ask you. Okay, so what are some of the changes you've seen through NSA? It doesn't have to be related to frequency, because it's pretty wild what NSA can do.
You mean with people on the table when they?
What it is.
You mean the kind of changes we see in the practice in the office or with people?
Yeah. Like, what are some of the changes that you've witnessed in people by receiving care? I mean, it's huge.
The most common thing that people say about network care is, this has changed my life. And that, I share that with people when they're inquiring about what we do. And, I tell them that's not just because this is so awesome, which is also partly that, but it's the intention of the care. So to help your nervous system move from bracing against change to like swimming downstream with the current for change, people, as that energy, the bracing gets liberated in people's bodies and in their field, they suddenly have so much more energy available for change. And so whether that is on a big external level, like I quit my job and I changed relationships and I up-leveled my communities and I started a new, creative project or a new business, or that kind of like big external change, or deep internal shift from like really my sense of who I am is shifting so deeply that nothing has to change in my external environment. And I'm living a completely different life with a completely different range of emotion. Both saying like, I feel like I went from having the 3 primary colors in the crayon box to experience my life to all 64 colors to experience my life. So when we're really in our nervous system's not like trying to minimize because we're overwhelmed, but we're able to experience more. To really profound, deep spiritual embodiment. So really feeling not just connected to something larger than yourself, but also simultaneously very present in your body and connected to something larger. And I find that a lot of the people, I don't know if you find this, Karen, too, is that many of the people that are drawn to the work I do are seekers. They're people who are aware of the subtle and are drawn to it and are called to it, even if their minds wrestle with it. And there are, for a lot of people who have a lot of awareness of the subtle and are drawn to that, sometimes those people also struggle to be in their physical body. And so network care can give them a really powerful expansion of what they can be aware of, and the pure bliss, ecstasy, and delight of being able to be in your body and have and experience what you're experiencing. Because we're not wired to be uncomfortable in any way and be in our body. You're hardwired to disconnect from your body when you're uncomfortable. We can cultivate that ability to stay in our body, but it is a learned thing that we have to utilize our neurology to do. And so network helps us do that. So when you can have experience of profound loneliness and feel the bliss in that, that's a really extraordinary thing. So from simple change to big external change to, visitations from ancestors in the moment, to spontaneous healing from chronic things, as someone's able to experience the energy that their body was shutting down and packaging away and disconnecting from to protect them to survive, and then getting to the place and maybe disease manifests over time, and they start to be able to experience their body and themselves and some of the energy that they've been disconnected from, sometimes for decades, and how disease that was maybe there just starts to melt away, because the purpose of the disease was to bring them in contact with that energy, and so it's not needed anymore. So
Yeah.
lots of really amazing and beautiful changes.
Totally. And it's all of what you said is exactly what we're doing too in frequency work. So it's like very mirrored. And just for people to know, just in terms of all those things that Aiden has talked about, I've seen from different friends and so on who have done NSA on different levels. And ultimately, these profound internal changes in terms of how you perceive the world are huge. I mean, they may not look like anything from the outside, but they make a tremendous difference in terms of your experience of life. And I'll just talk to my dad for a minute. So we kind of dragged him into NSA back then because he didn't know what it was. And he just moved to California with my mom. And he was into trying this new fangled thingy to help his back, and he had a lot of pain. And when he started with NSA, his head, I think, was it 3 or 5 inches in front of his body? Really, really far. He was like really hunched over. Yeah, like really far like this. Yeah. You say, Aiden, right? For every inch that your head is in front of your body, it's like an extra 10 pounds of pressure on the spine or something like this. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So within just a few months, I think it was 3 or 4, his head was back up straight on top of his spine. Like if you ask a lot of doctors, that's not possible. It's not possible. But there he was with his head on top of his spine.
Impossible.
Impossible. But there he was. and yeah, what? Oh yeah. So anyway, my dad did all kinds of crazy things, which is really awesome. But one of the things that he would experience often, because he had a lot of pain before he gotten trained, he would always sort of be in this, like, I'd pick him up and take him to getting trained, and he would kind of be cranky. It's like the HOA was doing this. There's somebody who was not allowing, shouldn't be doing this with their dog, and all this sort of stuff. He's like complaining. He'd get trained. And then all of a sudden, life would be amazing. He'd have gratitude for his life and his children and his wife and living in California, and look at how the sky and how amazing and blue it is. And I'm like, the only thing that happened in that period of time was that he got trained. So it can make a big difference, right? The perception in terms of how we feel obviously has a very big ripple effect into our lives. So, and I say it's an amazing thing. And I feel very lucky that we have practitioners like Aiden to help us. And I guess I'm just going to check to see if there's anything else. Just before we get to the questions from the rest of you guys, I wanted to ask before I forget, because I'm going to. So Aiden, you're in San Francisco, yeah? Okay. And so I think in order to receive NSA, at least my experience of it has to be, you have to be fixed. Obviously, it's a physical modalities in a way. I mean, you have to receive it from somebody physically. So so if people are interested in NSA, would they just look up a practitioner, or is there something else they can do?
Yes. So there are practitioners all around the world. So you can look to see if there's somebody in your area. And I'm also, if you email me after this, I can help connect you to people. So there's that piece. And then there is a piece of network care. There's a tool that we use called somato-respiratory integration, which is where people use their own hands on their body with their own breath and movement and awareness. And so that's a tool that people learn when they're in the practice, but that's also a tool that can be taught at a distance, that can be something you cultivate and practice on your own. And so that's a piece of what we do at Verve, but also, and also many practices do. So if you're not physically located near a practitioner, that's one way that you can still get some of the benefits of this change in your nervous system and integration with the field.
Okay. Awesome. And for all of you to know, after we take questions, Aiden has been very kind and has offered to lead us through stage 1 of SRI, just to help you. The reason SRI can be really powerful is it centers you in your body. So all of you who've done frequency work know how important it is for you to be centered in the body, right? To be centered in the zero. So SRI can provide a vehicle into that, which is really awesome. So she's going to be leading us through that at the very end. And I think we're going to go to some questions now from all of you. So if you have questions, please write the word question or question marks so that we can find your questions and put it on there. Okay. So what's Pam's question? Okay. Is it possible to access this work remotely or only in person to obtain the best result? Where on the body is the gateway? So I think we answered question 1. So Aiden, the question 2 is for you.
Yeah. So we developed the gateways in the spine. So I think there's one slightly technical, but I think you'll find it interesting in relation to frequency work, is that your nervous system consists of your brain and your spinal cord and the network of nerves. You have an envelope that goes around your brain and around your spinal cord that protects it, and that attaches to the bone in the neck and in the pelvis. So your spinal cord is actually anchored to the bone at the top and bottom. So when you stretch and bend and move, your spine stretches like a rubber band. So that's why, the position of Karen's father's head in front of his shoulders is so important, because when the head comes forward, we actually stretch the spinal cord. And if you imagine taking a guitar string and holding the guitar string low on the fret and trying to strum it, there wouldn't be much resonance. It'd be like, dum, dum. This happens true in our nerves. When we have tension in the nerves, there's not as much vibration available. So the nerves aren't able to actually communicate as effectively and efficiently. So one of the mechanical physiological ways that people have so much more energy and awareness after an entrainment is that there's slack in the nerves. There's not as much tension and there's more resonance. The antenna of your spine is able to pick up much more subtle information and communicate much more efficiently. So the reason I bring that up is because where we develop the gateways in the spine are in the neck and in the sacrum, which is where the spinal cord attaches to the bone. So what we want to see happen is that the body develops a gateway, this ability to process energy and information on a quantum level, close to where the spinal cord tension is. And so depending on what pattern of tension you have in your spine that day, we'll develop a gateway for that. We can also develop gateways with somatorespiratory integration. And there you're developing a gateway through your hands on your body, your breath, and your awareness, which you'll experience the level we'll do a little at the end of this here. So in that way, we can create gateways anywhere in the body by creating a resonance between our embodied experience and our awareness of the field around us.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Let's see. What other questions? Oh, and just for you guys to know, sorry, I didn't mention this. So from a frequency perspective, for me, when I perceive it, I don't know if you've noticed this, but oftentimes I'll work in you guys' spine, right? And I'll say something like, I'm pulling this through the physical, through your spine. And you might wonder to yourself, what the hell is she talking about? All right. So the reason I'm saying that is because I'm attuning your nervous system to the change that is happening in the physical, because I found that if you align the nervous system, the rest of your body will follow more quickly. Okay, so if I pull the frequency work through your spine, so which is my version of what Aiden does, it's different obviously, but it's my version of doing that, then what happens is the rest of your body can adapt more quickly. If not, you have this sort of disconnect sometimes. Okay, not always, but what can happen is you have this disconnect. So you have all this stuff that's happening on frequency level, and here's the embodiment doing whatever it's doing and habituated to. And you kind of need like the two of these things to talk to each other, right? To be integrated with each other. So in case you've ever wondered, what am I doing? That is what I'm doing. And that's why NSA is so powerful with frequency work. Not that it's not powerful, it's on obviously, but the reason it dovetails so nicely is because, again, you're in the physical, establishing this connection through the nervous system, right, with the field, so that your body can adjust and adapt more quickly. Okay, in case that's helpful. All right, is there another question? Mm-hmm. Nichelle, are there benefits to physical spinal problems like scoliosis? Do you mean, can it resolve that? I don't understand what that means. Oh, can scoliosis be helped by NSA? totally. I mean, Aiden, you should talk to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, really, any dysfunction or disease process in the body can be supported by NSA, because NSA doesn't seek to treat the condition. What it seeks to do is help your nervous system process energy and information not only faster and more efficiently, but in a way that's more aligned with who you are. And really, all disease manifests from a distortion of you're not in your nature in some way. And that can be as simple as small micro traumas over time, and your body's bound up in a bunch of defense. You're not expressing your nature because you're expressing actually the ways in which you've had to protect yourself from the different things you've been through. So it's no failure of you or your body to be in that state. It's actually a way that your body's learned to adapt. And if we're not expressing who we are, it's supposed to hurt. That's the pain is the feedback. So and with something like scoliosis, where you have a different, whether it's you're born with it or it's something that's your body has done in response to the different things you've lived through, then network care, again, that way that the brain can go, oh, that's what I'm doing. Does this work? Is this true to me now? Is this efficient? Does this help? And having the kind of flexibility and awareness and ability to self-regulate your spinal cord tension patterns is immensely helpful with scoliosis.
Oh yeah, totally.
Or anything, any spinal, anything you can think of.
Yeah. No, and this is just anecdotal, so I can't prove anything, but I've met people who were born with scoliosis, done an NSA, and it's not there. Like, it goes away. It completely, like, their spine is normal. It's mind blowing. Yeah. It's not possible, and yet it is.
Right. They come into wholeness, all kinds of things can change.
Yeah, all kinds of things can change. It's amazing. It's like magic.
And probably what's most exciting about when you have something like scoliosis is that network's not going to treat it. It's not going to try to fix it or correct it. It's going to try to help you become more resourceful and empowered with it and in the face of it. It's a really different approach.
Very different. Yep. So Teresa, can this help people who can't stay in their body? So Aiden, would you like to answer that? And I'll answer from my position.
Yes. That is what this is. That is all about helping you come home to who you are in your body. So yes. If that's something you've struggled with, this is immensely helpful.
Immensely helpful. And for those of you who have difficulty staying in the space-time resonance, this is really helpful. It forces you into a dominant space-time resonance, okay, in your body.
If you have trouble staying in a sense of a relationship to abundance and you get stuck in scarcity, this can help you. Those are all reflections of defense. It's the nervous system saying, like, too much energy and too much, I'm overwhelmed. So I'm going to narrow what I can be aware of and what I can allow. And I'm going to try to protect myself from anything that might increase my sense of overwhelm. So then we're more protective, we're more defensive, we're more reactive, we're more scarcity consciousness, all those things. It's just a defensive protective state, but it's not who you are.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah. So say, how long do you need for SRI?
Maybe between 5 and 7 minutes.
Okay.
5 minutes.
We have time for at least 2 to 3 more questions. Okay, so a lot of people are asking the question, how do I find a practitioner in wherever I am? Okay, so I think if you Google NSA, right, Aiden, and like a network spinal analysis, and okay, I'm sorry, go ahead, Aiden. You should probably answer it.
I was just there. You can Google, and that can sometimes be a rabbit hole. There is, I will share this with you, Karen, so you can share this with them. There is a Google Maps link that many practitioners have pinned themselves on. It's not an exhausted list. So if you don't see somebody in your area on that, you should still Google and search to see if there's somebody near you. But many people have put themselves on this map. So I'll send you that link so you can look that up and just look on the map. And see if somebody
and what I'll do, thank you, Aiden. And what I'll do is I'll send that out to, well, everybody who's on the newsletter list. So you can find that if you want. The other thing that I'll mention that I was mentioning about the Googling is that I think, I don't know if Donnie's, but anyway, there's an official sort of list, isn't there, of NSA practitioners. So if you look up NSA practitioner near me, I think there's a list that you may find.
Yeah, yes, I think there's a couple different lists that are floating around like that. So,
yeah, Yeah, and then Aiden has been very generous and has volunteered if you email her to ask her where somebody is, but maybe look at those two alternatives first. And if you can't find somebody, then email Aiden so she's not overwhelmed with multiple requests. Okay, and so that's how you would find a practitioner. So I'm going to preface this by saying that the level of the skill of the practitioner matters, just like in anything, like a teacher, a doctor, a teacher. It doesn't matter what it is, yes. And I think that NSA is wonderful as a modality, and as your system gets more and more proficient, you'll notice that that certain practitioners are, like Aiden is extraordinarily gifted. Okay, and so if you ever are in San Francisco and are stopping over for any amount of time, I don't know if Aiden will see you, but if you can see somebody as skilled as she is, it's truly amazing. Okay. So I don't know if I answered that question. So before we even moved to the big island of Hawaii, one of my first questions was, is there an NSA practitioner on this island? I need to know that before we move there. All right. All righty. So, okay, for me first. How does she access the gateway, and how can we trust it's coming from pure source rather than any source? What are her opinions on applied kinesiology? Okay, well, I don't know the last thingy. How do we trust that she's working from pure source? Oh, that's an interesting question to ask oneself in terms. So to me, that indicates a defense pattern, actually. My feeling is that if you're, like with anything or anyone, to scan them and see how you feel about them, and ask the question to yourself: is this person aligned with pure source? And you'll receive the answer that you're going to receive. It may not be accurate, but it's the answer that you're going to receive. Yeah. And so intuitively follow that. With Aiden personally, she is in alignment with pure source. I wouldn't let her work on me if she weren't. It's like this with anybody. So here, I'm just going to talk about practitioners. Back up out of the NSA discussion. For something as intimate as someone touching your spine, this is a good question. You need to be aware of the resonance of the person who you're allowing to access you so intimately. And so, as I've mentioned, it's to scan the person or feel them and see if they feel resonant to you. And if they feel resonant to you, that's great. If they don't, then don't. So I'm not going to mention where we were, but we were somewhere, and I felt like I wanted to get entrained. And I looked up to see if there was somebody there, and there was. And I looked at the person's picture, and I hesitated. I was like, And it had nothing like they were from darkness, okay? So just to be clear, all right? This person wasn't like aligned with something evil or anything, okay? So just to be really clear about that. But I was just like, I'm not super vibing on this person's resonance, okay? It doesn't mean they're dark. It just means that I'm not certain about it. And then I spoke to her on the phone, and immediately it was a no. I was like, no. Because she had, for me, a lot of control patterns and a lot of fear patterns. And I was like, I don't want to receive that, okay? For me, I'm pretty sensitive. I don't know if you've picked up on this, but that's who I am. So there's only a certain number of people who I will allow to work on me on that level, okay? And there's a number of people I will, but for me, that was a no. Is that necessarily an indication of anything in like the absolute about this practitioner? No. It just meant that for me and my resonance in that moment, it was a no. That's all. So that meant no. Okay. So I feel like with all, but someone else could go see her and they may be just great. Seriously. Okay. This is about what is resonant for you in that moment, and to discern that and to trust your intuition and to follow it. Right. So, and it doesn't matter who recommends what to you and how they feel about it, whatever. Scan in that moment with that person, see if it's a yes for you, and then scan to see if you have fear. Okay. Meaning, are you doing this because you're afraid of the change? Or are you afraid because there's something in there that there's something else going on? Does that make sense to you? Because there's a number of things that can cause us to say no, other than just like, this may not be appropriate for me. Maybe your own distortion. Yeah, because sometimes we can about to be enter something that can provide tremendous change, and we resist it because we're like, oh my God, and then all these reasons why we shouldn't be doing the thingy, right? So to scan, be aware of yourself and your own distortion of like what it is that you might have fear of, inability to release control around her, whatever. Okay, so it requires a higher degree of self-awareness. So that may not be an entirely satisfactory answer for this person asking the question, but hopefully that's helpful. So it has less to do with is the person in alignment with pure source, but is it, I guess it's a first question you can ask, but also is the person resonant for you in that moment? So Aiden, I don't know if you want to elaborate further from your perspective.
I completely agree with you. And it's actually advice I give people when, they say, who should I see? And say, well, who's convenient to you? You look up who's in your area and then call them and talk to them and ask them what they do and why they do it, and listen to them talk about what they do. You'll get a lot of information on a subtle level from what Karen's speaking to. Is this somebody I have rapport with? And rapport with somebody is, you don't even have to know where or why or how, but rapport is really important for the effectiveness of any care of any kind. If you feel connected and like you are resonant with the person who's going to be providing any sort of treatment for you or any sort of facilitation for you, the effectiveness of it is exponential if you have rapport. So that's what I advise for people to do.
Yeah. Do you trust them? Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Another question. Do all people who advertise as network chiropractic come from this place of energy work? I don't understand the question.
I can speak to that a little bit.
You can speak to that? Okay, thank God.
I would say that, network, that every practitioner at every chiropractic office is going to be a little bit different. The practitioner is different and the culture of the office is different. What you will find in anybody who's practicing this technique is a tonal way of working with the body, meaning like really helping the system be more resonant. And so in that way, you'll find consistency, but the work has evolved over the years. And so if somebody learned the work 30 years ago, they may be practicing differently than somebody who learned the work 5 years ago. And there are many people who have learned the work over years and have continued to change with the work. So this is why I recommend calling and having a conversation with that practitioner. Ask them what they do and how they do it and why they do it, and hear what they say. So there may be nuances. The technique is pretty consistent, and you still want to get to know how it is a person's working and share with them why you're seeking care, and hear how they might be able to speak to how they would support you in whatever your goals and intentions are.
Yeah. Yep. Every practitioner is different. Everyone has their own frequency resonance, right? And so who they are, in a way, I mean, the work itself is powerful. Okay, so don't get me wrong, NSA is amazing, and always the clarity of the practitioner is everything, right? In terms of the work that they're giving. So as Aiden says, I totally agree. See if you feel that person and you're like, yep, yeah. Or even if it's like I'm a little scared here, but it's still a yes. Shit.
And I think if you're interested in seeing a spinal practitioner for the purpose of supporting your frequency work, tell them that. Tell them that. Say, hey, I want chiropractic care. Not trying to fix my back pain. I'm doing this because to help me integrate this work I'm doing on an energetic level. Can you help me? And you'll get a very clear yes or huh, and you'll know. Probably know more about it maybe than the person. So lead with that and see if they're going to be somebody who can support you in your empowerment versus do the thing that they want you to do.
Yeah. Cool. Do you want any more, Chris? Are you good? Okay. So I think Aiden is going to now lead us in stage 1 of XRI. There are 12 stages. Not that you need to know any of that. It's not very important. However, this is really, really good I find, for many people to center into the body. And as a gift to us, she's actually being very generous. I'll be sending out through the newsletter, like anybody who's on the newsletter, obviously, who heard about this YouTube Live, this recording that she made to guide you through this stage 1. So you can put it on your phone or whatever it is to help you in case you'd like that as a tool, which is very generous of her. So in any case, I'm going to let Aiden take it away. I'm going to take off my little earbuddy thing.
So you can do, all you need to do this practices is your hands and your body. So you can do this sitting up, you can do it lying down, you can do it standing up. When people are first learning it, lying down sometimes is a nice way to do it, to feel the something against your back with your hands on your body. But just know you can do the seated. So I'm going to demonstrate the seated. So just know that you can do that. I'll get up a little higher so you can see me. Okay, so what you're going to do is put one hand on top of the other, like you're making a sandwich. So not fingers interlaced, but one on top of the other, and not at an angle like this, but one on top of the other like this. And you're going to place your hands on your upper chest. So we do this intentionally on this flat spot that's not the heart and not the throat. Those are energy centers. So there's a lot of extra information there. So intentionally, when you're first learning this, putting your hands right on this flat spot of your upper chest. And what you're going to do is you're going to breathe in your nose and out your mouth. So close your eyes and you're going to breathe in your nose and out your mouth into this flat part of the chest, above the heart, below the throat. And you're going to pay attention to three things: the breath, moving under your hands, that actual inhale and exhale there. The movement, so noticing how the upper part of the ribs lift up. Notice how there's breath and movement comes into the ribs between your shoulder blades and your upper back. And as you exhale, there's an expansion. Inhale, there's an expansion, and exhale, there's a softening. And the third thing you're going to pay attention to is the energy. So the breath, the movement, the energy, three different things. And you're going to isolate that movement and energy and breath just to this place your hands are touching. So not breathing all the way up through, not letting the breath travel other places, just in this one spot. And then you're going to ask the question, am I connected here? And connected feels, it's easy. It's easy to bring your attention here. It's easy to bring the breath here. It moves. And maybe a sense of ease or peace in that spot. Or it could, if you're not connected, it could feel like it's hard to breathe there. It's tight. It's hard to expand there. I don't have access to the breath. It's hard to focus when I'm here. Those are all ways in which we know we're not connected. So just taking some breath in your nose and out your mouth and noticing. And then you're going to move your hands to the second position, which is right where your ribs open. So right where the ribs start to splay. You're going to put your hands right in that spot and do the same thing. Eyes closed, just tuning into this middle part of your body, torso, the lower ribs. As you breathe in there, noticing the movement of the ribs, how they flare out, the movement of the diaphragm, the back of the lower rib cage. Bringing breath and expansion. And also noticing the tone or the energy. Does it feel peaceful here? Sometimes when you're tuning in like this, you'll notice that there's an emotional charge in places. Just making note of whatever you notice. And is this easier or more effortless to connect to than the first one? And after you've got a sense of that one, you're going to move to the belly button. So same idea, bringing those stacked hands over your belly button, breath in your nose and out your mouth. Letting now just the belly fill with the breath, just the belly expand. So your ribs aren't going to move, chest isn't going to move, just allowing the belly to expand. And just noticing the energy here. Breath, the movement, the energy. And asking, am I connected here? Now, what I want you to do is to bring your hands to whichever of the three was the most connected, whichever was the easiest. Now, when you're first learning this, the difference between places can be subtle. You might notice like, well, they all feel sort of the same. If that's the case, go ahead and scan again, finding any tiny difference, using that discernment to see relatively where is there the most ease or connection between these three spots in this moment. And so once you find that spot, for me, it's this middle spot, you're going to bring your hands there. And bringing your attention to the ease that's available, the connection that's available. what's miraculous about the body is that we can be in total stress. We can be in so much pain, physically, emotionally, psychically, and there will be a part of our body that's at peace. And so we are so good at scanning our bodies often for what's not working. We don't often spend a lot of time scanning our bodies for what is working. So even just checking with the 3 spots, finding the place that's most connected and taking some breaths there, you can tune your whole nervous system into what Karen refers to as a 0 point, into a state of presence and ease and connection and awareness. So using this spot now, after taking a couple breaths in whichever was the most connected, you're now going to move your hands to whichever of the 3 was the least connected. Okay, so for me, that was the belly. So I'm going to bring my hands, you can't see, but down to my belly. And you're going to take a breath in here. And you're going to say the words out loud. Sometimes I get disconnected. So taking a breath into whichever spot was least connected and saying out loud, sometimes I get so disconnected. And then bringing your hands back to the place that was connected. And taking a breath in your nose and out your mouth. Reconnecting, re-anchoring, refocusing onto that available ease that's here. And on your next exhale, you're going to make a sound for ease. So making the out loud statements and the out loud sounds is really important because we give voice to, we acknowledge what the body's experiencing. So in this place that's connected, you're going to make a sound for ease. It might be a or a or a whoo or a woohoo. Any sound for what feels like connected, peace, ease. And make that a couple times. In your nose and out your mouth. You can imagine every cell in your body hearing that sound of ease. And then bringing your hands again to whichever spot was least connected and taking a breath in there, feeling the movement there, the energy there, and you're going to make a sound for not ease. And then coming back to the place where the connection was. Taking 2 or 3 breaths in the place of ease. And then you can bring your hands off those parts. You can put them on your lap. You can rest them by your sides. And just taking a couple breaths to notice what's shifted. What changed? What are you aware of now that you weren't aware of before? What changed in the breath? What changed in the energy? And that's it. And I recommend doing this exercise every day. I recommend doing this exercise in transitions. So that could be when you wake up before you get out of bed. It could be before you go to sleep at night. It could be when you're done with work and you're transitioning into time at home or time with family. When you're moving from one meeting into another meeting. Training your nervous system to connect through the body to a place of stillness, a place of connection, a place of peace, and to acknowledge that, sometimes I'm not so peaceful. Sometimes I get scared. Sometimes I feel disconnected. Sometimes I feel overwhelmed. Sometimes it feels like nothing works. Sometimes it feels like no matter how hard I try, things don't get any better. Acknowledging that and then coming back into the place of connection and peace. Training your nervous system to do that when you transition from one thing to another is really powerful. And if you do that every day for a period of time, you'll find that your nervous system will just start to drop in that way when you transition without even doing the whole exercise.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Aiden.
You're so welcome.
For all of your wisdom, for sharing everything you have with us, including this exercise and what you all will receive in your email. Okay. And I think I'm going to try and find, if Aiden, you can send that map to me, that map link. I'll include that in that in that email. So for those of you who are interested in finding a practitioner, and I just wanted to address a question that has come up, which is some of you have noticed that Chris and I have been trained for a long time, and then does it not work? Does NSA not work? Like, why do you have to do it for so long? The reason we do it for so long is because who we are tends to be very growth oriented. We tend to be people who like to expand as quickly as we can, and also to optimize who we are in our physical bodies. So we could stop it. We have enough strategy in our body, and because we're growth oriented, we love what we can access with NSA. It's just a really powerful tool. So I just want to clarify that in case people are wondering, like, well, if I have to sign up for this, do I have to be in this for a really super long time to have any kind of benefit? No. We just choose to do it because of the massive benefit that it offers. So, and it's, pardon me? Yeah, and Chris is saying, we just like to feel awesome. So it's a very easy tool to get there. And if it's available to you, then well, we would take it. So anyway, just to clarify that, in case people were asking. So in any case, thanking Aiden one more time for her spectacularness of who she is. Some of you will see her at some of our retreats if you choose to join us live. If you are in San Francisco, I do encourage you to stop by, make an appointment like in advance, because she is quite busy actually, to see her. She's extraordinary. And also to take advantage of this gift that she's given us of SRI. All right.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's so fun. It's great to be with you all. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. And thank you all for being here. We hope that this is helpful, this integration series, and helping you being your most awesome self. Okay. Bye for now.